Our first World Cup nation to speak of is going to be England. I have 3 kits from England. Let's start off with the one from the 2018 World Cup. I have Raheem Sterling on the back of it, where he was wearing the number 10 for them. Their nickname is the 3 Lions, and you can see the 3 of them on their crest, the 3 being from the emblem of their king, Richard I. Elsewhere in the badge, you'll see 10 Tudor roses sprinkled in between the lions, and 1 single star above the badge for their 1966 World Cup Championship from a tournament that they hosted themselves. With that World Cup final 4-2 over West Germany, they can boast that they have the only hat-trick ever scored in a World Cup final by Geoff Hurst, with the 4th goal coming from Martin Peters, meaning that all 4 goals for England were scored by West Ham United players. With this being a home kit, you can see that their colors are always an all-white shirt with blue shorts. Their away colors are almost always red, as you can see from this kit from the 2010 World Cup. And seeing as I'm 6'5", for a laugh, I had to get Peter Crouch's name on the back of that kit. Their home ground is the famous Wembley Stadium, also known as the home of football by English supporters. At 90,000 seats, it is the 2nd biggest stadium in all of Europe behind Barcelona's Camp Nou. Here's 3 key things about England. They are the joint oldest international squad in the world alongside Scotland, with whom they played their very first match in 1872. The most common anthem you're going to hear sung by English fans outside of God Save the King is going to be 3 Lions, also known more commonly as It's Coming Home. The rock group The Lightning Seeds, along with 2 British comedians, were commissioned by the FA to write the song for the Euro 96 tournament, from which my final England kit comes. If you don't know this song and you're going to be supporting England during this World Cup, you definitely need to learn it in the next couple days, because you're going to hear it ringing from every British pub that you walk into around the world. Final little tidbit is the English generally feel that they're cursed in penalty shootouts, having lost many of them throughout their history, including the Euro 96 semi-final against Germany, and more recently in the Euro 2020, played in 2021 against Italy in the final. So let's go into a preview for England in this World Cup. Their manager for the last 6 years has been Gareth Southgate, who as a player, unfortunately, was the fall guy during that penalty shootout in 1996. As far as England managers go, he has actually had a lot of success, taking them to the semi-final of last World Cup and to the final of this previous Euro last year. Step-by-step progress is really good, seeing as many of the managers that came before him didn't have much success for England. Although this is one of the most criticized roles in all of football, he's been doing a good job, but this tournament really is do or die for him. Going into the tournament, England are in a really bad run of form, seeing as they haven't won in 6 matches, they've drawn 3 of those, and they haven't scored in 4 of them. So that brings me my first and biggest question for England, which is, can they score goals? Obviously, the man that should is Harry Kane, their striker and captain, who's only 2 goals away from tying the all-time goal-scoring record for England, held by Wayne Rooney. If he's not firing, where do the goals come from? With the next name really needing to be Raheem Sterling, who's going to partner him in attack, but he can be very shoddy at times when it comes to his finishing. If he can be on form going into this, he can be great, but he hasn't shown that for Chelsea yet in his first season, as well as Mason Mount and Jack Grealish needing to be guys that really pick up some of the slack. It leaves a lot to be desired on who is going to be that second man to Harry Kane in goal scoring. Another question mark for England is a couple of positions that haven't really been solidified by players going into the tournament due to form as well as injuries to key players. The right back position was pretty much sewn up by Reece James with the form he had for Chelsea this season, but an injury really draws that into question if he can go to the World Cup. Probably not, meaning that's a wide open race again, with Kyle Walker probably being the guy that would have taken his place, but also injured, and Trent Alexander-Arnold being incredible going forward, but absolute trash in defense, and that's really too much of a risk for this England team. My answer for Southgate would be Kieran Trippier, who has been incredible for Newcastle over the last 8 games or so, especially offensively, covering that Trent Alexander-Arnold need, but defensively as well. He's the guy that really should come in here and play right back, and he can also back up at left back, where England really just have Luke Shaw. The next place of focus has to be center back. England play a 3-5-2 formation with 3 center backs, with 5 midfielders, 2 of them being the fullbacks who drop into defense when they don't have the ball, and 2 strikers up top. John Stones of Man City, as well as Eric Dyer of Tottenham Hotspur, are locks for 2 out of those 3 positions, and unfortunately for some reason, Harry Maguire seems to be a lock for the 3rd. To use some Chelsea and Liverpool supporter terminology, if Thiago Silva and Virgil van Dijk are Rolls-Royce defenders, then Harry Maguire has to be a 1980s Yugo GV that has somehow conned Gareth Southgate into thinking he's a Lamborghini Murcielago. His terrible form and lack of performance at Manchester United, most of the time sitting on the bench unless there's injuries, say that he should barely be considered for this squad, no less in the starting lineup. The man to look to instead should be Fikayo Tomori of AC Milan, who, barring 2 matches that were very poor against Chelsea in the Champions League, has had 2 years of really good form. The positive for England is their midfield pretty much writes itself right now, with Declan Rice being the anchor in the center, with 2 of the best talents that England has at the moment in Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden playing ahead of him. My expectations for England really boil down to how Gareth Southgate goes about choosing his starting 11. Southgate can be unlike a lot of other national team managers who use the current form that a player is in for their domestic teams and maybe their last couple performances for the national team. Southgate can go off of how they played in previous tournaments, which is a little hard because it may have been 2 or 4 years since those tournaments, and the form of the player may have changed dramatically. The players who need to have really good tournaments are Phil Foden and Jude Bellingham, bringing creativity from the midfield, as well as Harry Kane has to be scoring from the offset, and the second goal scoring threat, whoever that may be, needs to assert themselves within the first match. My prediction is England does get out of the group, one they share with the United States, Iran, and Wales, but they go as far as the quarterfinals. With the asterisk being that if Harry Maguire is in the starting lineup, I question if they get out of the group stage, no less win the group. I know that's a bit intense criticism there, but that's kind of par for the course for English supporters assessing their side, and I thought I'd do the same. They really have had a lot of pain throughout the years, either having calamitous experiences right out of the gate in group stages or just missing that last hurdle at the very end.